Hello everyone, it's been a while since I've done a video, but I'm back. And since it's been a while, I've decided to go for some low-hanging fruit.
Hey guys, Josh Fierstein here. You know, the other day I had an atheist tell me that I was an idiot, moronic, and stupid for believing in God, that He created this world, because it took way too much faith to believe in a process like that, while he believed in what he called the science of evolution.
That's right, folks, I'm not just going for low-hanging fruit, I'm going for the fruit that a toddler has to reach down to pick. I am going for the lowest hanging fruit I could possibly find. Josh, why don't you try and say something coherent?
Well, let's go ahead and let's do this. Dear Mr. Atheist, first of all, let me correct you. Because evolution is not a science, never has, and never will be. Why? Because it cannot fit within the parameters and parentheses of science for one simple reason. It was never observed.
Are you familiar with the mosquitoes in England? A very interesting story that took place during World War II. You see, everybody went in the subways to avoid the bombings at night, and when they went down there, mosquitoes went down there with them because they're looking for food. Eventually, some of the mosquitoes down there stayed down there. They interbred, they changed a little bit here and there, developed some new qualities, some old genes went away and replaced with new ones, and over time, they became subterranean mosquitoes that cannot interbreed with the original above-ground mosquitoes. This is an event called speciation, which is what you would call, what most would call, a form of macroevolution, which has taken place during the lifetime of many people still alive today. And then this is, consider that this is for mosquitoes, who are a relatively large, complex, multicellular organism. This isn't just a bacterium or a virus. This is an actual living, multicellular, complicated creature that has macro-evolved during the lifetime of people alive today. So yes, motherfucker, evolution has been observed. It continues to be observed. And the idea that you claim that it hasn't been observed is just ridiculous. And the truth is, these mosquitoes are just one example I stumbled across without even really researching the issue. That's the thing, is that you can find observed instances of evolution without even really looking for it, which kind of tells me that Josh just doesn't bother to fucking care. He just makes assertions without research, which, you know, doesn't surprise me. I'm guessing he probably doesn't even know what the fucking Bible says, but that's another topic for another time.
That's why it's not science. That's why it's called the theory of evolution. One man's theory. Now, let me...
See, this is where you prove you just don't know the most basic and elemental concepts of science. There is literally no such thing in the scientific method as one man's theory. The idea of creating a theory is, by definition, within science, a collaborative process. Everybody working together, a whole bunch of different people, testing, retesting, studying, restudying, trying to come up with a firmly established concept. And once all the facts have been looked at, all the numbers have been measured, everything that's been done, that's when you get a theory. Over time, it generally gets refined, it gets changed, it gets altered as new evidence comes to light. But the truth is, it's a very complex, difficult thing to come up with a scientific theory. A scientific theory is near the height of scientific knowledge, and it is a group effort to come up with one. The idea that you think it's a single man's theory just shows you don't have the most elemental concepts of science in that stupid fucking round head of yours. I think my favorite part of this video, though, is where you make that line about evolution being one man's theory, as if no one before had a concept of evolution in their head and Charles Darwin pulled it out of his ass. I hate to tell you this, dude, but evolution was a fairly established concept within science. It hadn't reached the point of theory yet, but a lot of people kind of accepted it. The only real difference was most kind of thought humans were an exception and special some way and didn't evolve. Charles Darwin, all he really did was come up with a few new concepts that later came to be tested out true and became considered fact. But where it gets really special is when you realize Anaximander, the Greek philosopher from 600 BCE, 2,600 years ago, came up with the idea that humans and other animals evolved or came from other animals, and that at one point the world was more watery and aquatic than it is today at his time, and that most of the life was living in the water. Which means this motherfucker had all he had was a few fossils to look at and was able to figure out more about evolution than you, Josh, have been able to do with an extra couple thousand years worth of research and study. That's kind of fucking pathetic.
Show you how much faith it really takes to believe in evolution. You want me to believe that in some accidental cosmic bang, that out of that was created one cell, and from that one cell that all life springs.
No, Josh, it wasn't an accident. Nobody is saying it's an accident, except maybe you. I mean, the fact accident infers intent. It's entirely possible that if the Earth universe was created by a divine being, that the creation of the universe was an accident. I mean, God getting up from the couch at night, stubs his toe, drops a plate on the floor, and boom, a universe is created. I mean, that's a fucking accident creation of the universe. The creation of the universe via the big bang rapid expansion. If I light a stick of dynamite that's functioning and the fuse burns down and then it explodes, is that an accident? No, that's physics, that's chemistry, that's the way shit works. It's no more the big bang creation of the universe is no more an accident than anything else consistent with the laws of physics, the laws of chemistry, cosmology, anything else.
Every plant, every animal, every single human being, and that somewhere along the way, over years and years, we mysteriously and magically all develop different wills, and we all develop different characteristics and traits, all because we willed it in our... I mean, you really think that everything came from one single cell? How much faith does that take?
Are you trying to hurt my brain with that stupid horse shit? There's nothing magical or mysterious involved here. Here's the basics. Things that are more successful are more likely to be carried on, while things that are less successful are more likely to die off. That's basically how the concept of evolution and natural selection work. It's entirely possible that other creatures evolved before our earliest ancestors. However, they weren't as adapted to the world, not quite as capable of surviving in the world we know, and they were simply outcompeted and eventually eaten by our predecessors. That's how the fucking world works. The reason why there's so much biodiversity has nothing to do with the fact that different fucking wills. It has to do with the fact that the only goal really is survival and reproduction. And there are plenty of strategies that fucking work for that. Taking energy from the sun itself, like plants do, that works. Taking animal energy from the plants after they consume the energy from the sun, that works. That's why there's herbivores. Taking energy from the energy producers, that works. That's why there's carnivores. And there's a gradient between all of that. Sexual production, asexual reproduction with the gradient between that. All those fucking strategies work. If the strategy works, the creature continues on. If their strategy doesn't, they die. That's how it fucking works. There's no will. There's no greater intent. It's just trying to get fucking by.
Now, I realize that you say that evolution is in science. And yet, if we go back to science, the one thing that science demands, maybe you've heard of something called the law of thermodynamics, which means that chaos can never produce order.
I swear, dude, your choice of language is hurting my brain, but I'm going to go along with not correcting some of your horrible terminology. I'll go along with saying, yes, chaos cannot produce order. However, chaos can produce the appearance of order. The question is, how do you tell the difference between order and just chaos that appears to be orderly? I guess to know the difference, you'd have to be able to tell me what a world without God and a world with God would look like. You'd have to be able to compare a sample size of each. Can you do that? Can you tell me what a world without God would look like? Can you tell me what a world with God would look like? Can you compare and contrast the two? Can you tell me what life would look like in both circumstances? If you can't, then this is a meaningless If you can't, what you're saying is nothing more than meaningless gibberish.
Look at the world that we live in. The sun goes up, the moon comes out, we travel around the sun, we have years, we have days, we have seasons, the tide comes in and out, everything works like a clock.
Are you familiar with the history of our modern calendar, Josh? It's kind of interesting how it went a couple hundred years after the Romans created it. They realized that the star charts were now off. They miscalculated in their original production, and as a result, they had to literally just jump ahead the calendar 10 days. And from then on out, they added the leap year. So 365 days a year, except for every 4 years, we add a day. Just one problem, they later found out, oh, we overcorrected. So now every 100 years, there won't be a leap year on that 4th year. And then as their instruments got corrected again and more accurate, turns out we overcorrected once more. So every 400 years, there will be a leap year on that 100th year where there normally wouldn't be one. So it's all this back and forth mishmash bullshit. We have months, we have days, we have years, but they are specifically designed to the stellar world, yet we can't fucking do them. We can't do them accurately because it's impossible to do it 100% and match it up. And even this is an overcorrection. I mean, for fuck's sake, this was designed by some sort of deity so that way we could have these perfect calendars, yet they're this constant clusterfuck of overcorrections and alterations and updates. Are you serious? If this is what the best God can fucking design, if this is your argument, well, we have calendars and they work except when they don't. I mean, for fuck's sake, Josh, it's kind of pathetic.
It has order. And yet, you cannot argue that a world that has order came out of an accident because it defies the very logic and laws of science.
Totally agree with you, Josh. That's why nobody besides you is proposing an accidental creation to the universe or to life.
You see, you think it takes a lot of faith for me to believe in a God that created this world, a God that created order, and yet, what if I were to tell you that somewhere in Oklahoma, a tornado rolls through a junkyard full of a bunch of old cars, and somewhere on the other side of that tornado, out of that junk pile, it magically produces a perfectly red, shiny, working Lamborghini. You would tell me I was nuts. You would tell me that I had lost it. You would probably try to admit me into the psychiatric ward. Why? Because that is absolutely stupid. I mean, how much faith would it really take to believe something as idiotic as that?
All right, Josh. Now, this is where I'm supposed to say you're comparing biological, self-reproducing things that are proven to change and alter over time with a mechanical device that it has never been shown to be capable of any such thing, and point out that it's a horrible fallacy and you're immoral and a liar for even bringing it up or comparing it, which that is correct. That is what you're doing. But I'm not going to go that route. Aside from going that route, which I already did, I guess. I'm going to point out, okay, let's assume it does happen. Let's say a tornado hits a junkyard, assembles a working, shiny lead Lamborghini. Can you prove that the components necessary, the parts necessary to create said Lamborghini existed in the junkyard before the tornado? Can you prove that the Lamborghini wasn't there before the tornado? Is it there now? So my choices are that the tornadoes assembled it somehow, or that a magical space mechanic flying invisibly through the air started putting all the pieces together. You know what? I'm more likely probably to believe that the tornado assembled it than there's some magical space engineer putting together cars in the middle of storms. I hate to tell you that, but to be honest, the tornado is the most likely scenario out of those two. Because at least we know tornadoes can do some fucked up shit. But at least I know the tornado exists. I have no evidence or reason to believe that magical space mechanics can exist. So the idea that the mechanic is somehow the more likely scenario just seems kind of ridiculous to me, to be honest.
And yet that's exactly what science believes. Science believes that in this accident came this perfectly working Earth with
Perfectly designed Earth. Oh, that's fucking beautiful. You look at this huge, gigantic planet with a tiny little sliver on the surface that's capable of supporting life, and you come to the conclusion that that tiny little sliver is what the entire fucking ball was designed for. That's precious, Josh. That is a special kind of stupid, and I do mean short bus special.
human life and with people and animals and plants and seasons and days and hours and rotates. I mean, the atmosphere, everything in Earth was created perfectly. And I'm telling you, that could never happen through an accident. It had to be by intelligent design. So, dear Mr. Atheist, who really has to have a lot of faith today to believe in their theory?
Well, I guess the atheist would, since they're the only ones that have a theory. I mean, at this point, to be generous, all I could call your shit is a hypothesis, and that's being as generous as I possibly can be. Putting that aside, though, the one that I would say between the two of us whose idea requires more faith, that'd be you. Looking at the enormity of the universe and the scale of time in which we're talking, the idea that our pitiful little fucking lives on this meaningless rock in the middle of nowhere after billions of years of pre-existence that was all created just for us, that's beyond conceited. I don't even know how to quantify that level of arrogance. It baffles the mind that you can even imagine such a thing to be possible.
I believe in God because I've experienced Him, I've felt Him.
Wait, you've felt God? Hold on a second. God? I know I don't have any human-shaped dolls, so we're going to have to go with this. Can you show me on this derpy doll where it was that Josh felt you? Holy fuck. I knew you were fucked up and repressed sexually, Josh, but from what God just told me about where you felt him, you might want to seek some help before you get arrested. That's all I'm going to say from here.
But most of all, while driving through Yellowstone and Montana and so many of these natural reserves this week and looking at animals and looking at life, I don't know. I just can't look at all of that creation and say that it was an accident. I have to say that creation has a creator.
Gotta love Josh's cognitive dissonance, don't you? He goes on and on about how this diversity and complexity could not have existed without a creator. By a creator infinitely more complex than all this other shit. And somehow he doesn't require a creator for reasons. Gotta love that shit, Josh. Special pleading 101 right there, folks.
And one final thought. Well, the word universe, you believe in a Big Bang, but when I look at the word universe, it means una, which is one or singular. That's Latin, universe. Verse means a spoken statement. So universe is one single spoken statement. I dare you to read Genesis 1. And in the beginning, God said, let there be.
What about verses that are sung? I mean, fuck Genesis as it is. It might actually be worth reading if it was in song. Let there be light. Let there be day and night. I mean, even in my shitty fucking voice, it's more entertaining than the goddamn Pagats. God, even mentioning that part of the Bible in Genesis still fucking annoys me, so I'm gonna drop it right there.
All God had to do was speak one single spoken statement and boom, the universe. God bless. I dare you, if you believe in God, if you believe that all of this stuff is nonsense and you have enough faith to stand up and say, I still believe in creationism, I still believe in a God that reigns above all, then I ask you to take a moment and click share. Click share below or on the side of this video.
And I say, fuck that. If you think God is horseshit and you want to expose somebody who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, I say share his videos. There is very few greater examples of creationist stupidity and ignorance than Mr. Fierstein. He is the best advertisement for atheism to come along in a long time.
And if you're not my friend already on Facebook, click my name at the top of this video and let's be friends. But guys, it's time for us to stand up, get loud, and get proud. Why do we let evolutionary, quote-unquote, science work its way into middle schools and preschools and colleges and universities around the world?
Yeah, and why are we letting numbers into math class? And rulers into geometry, people of the past into history? We need to stop this shit now before it gets out of hand.
That's nonsense. It takes too much faith to believe that junk. And yet, I say it's time for us to begin to believe in intelligent design, believe in God. As always, like and comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on this. God bless. Have a very, very beautiful day.
You have a good day too, Josh. Just understand that as long as you're making videos, that's evidence to me that mankind was definitely not designed with intelligence in mind. And of course, to my audience, please like, share, comment, subscribe as well. Have a nice day.